changing the visa type from visiting or tourist visa or business visa, the famous B1, B2 visa of the United States, to change from that visa category to work visa. Is it allowed? Is it possible? Remember, majority of countries around the world, if you visit in that particular country under the visit visa, you are not allowed to work. So United States is no exception. You are not allowed to work because the visa type doesn't allow you to work. So if you come here, at the port of entry, at the first airport of the United States, we call port of entry, they will put into the system how long you are planning to stay here. Let's say you are given the 5 years visa, 1 year visa, 2 years visa to visit the United States. It doesn't mean that you have been given the 5 years to stay in the United States. You are given the visa multiple entry to come and go within 5 years without going to the embassy to ask for another visa. But at the port of entry, they will give you 6 more months if you want to stay in the United States. But within that time, maybe you are tempted or you think that it will be a good idea to change your visa type. Now you want to work in the United States. Previously, if you are under B1, B2, you are not allowed even to apply for the jobs. You are not allowed to do the interviews. But now, from 2023, the Department of Homeland Security, through United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS, have allowed, if someone is on B1, B2 visa, not to work, has been allowed to apply for jobs, has been allowed to go to interview for jobs. But if you get the job offer, before you start, your potential employer has to go to the immigration, has to go to the Homeland Security and request for change of status from visiting where you don't have even the Social Security to go and become the work visa, where you'll be also given the Social Security number. But being allowed doesn't mean that it's practical. It is very difficult because in any job you're going to apply, one of the questions will be asked, are you allowed to work in the United States? That means, do you have work authorization? The answer will say yes. Will you require sponsorship of any kind, even in the future? So most of the companies, if you require sponsorship either beginning or in the future, they don't employ you. Most of the companies do that. So there are few companies which will be okay to interview for you, to do to give you a job offer, and that company to go to request the change of status. It's not that easy, because the companies, most of the jobs you are going to find, there will be the normal jobs. They're not like engineer, not expert, like as an expert. It will be most of the normal jobs, which as employer, as a capitalist, why should I wait for 1 more month, 2 more months for you to process to come to work on my warehouse? Why should I pay extra money to the immigration, to the Homeland Security, just to get extra documentation, while there are some other people have green card or some are citizens who are already here? So for the companies in their standards, they don't want to go extra mile to waste their money, to waste their time, to waste other resources just for you. So for that case, there will be few companies which will be to do that. So if your intention is to find a job, don't wait until last 2 weeks to get a company. You have to apply as many jobs as possible. You have to do a deep research of most of the companies, which possibly they sponsor companies, they sponsor people with their work visas. So you apply hundreds of jobs, and out of those, maybe 1 or 2, they will say, okay, no problem, we'll be able with your experience, with what we need, we think you are able to do our job, and we will give you the documentations and will help you to process the work visa. That means it will help you to change from visitor to work visa. So for that particular case, while you are doing all those kind of things, you are supposed to continue to be on status. Not the status, you're already out of those 6 months. Then let me find a job, employer will go and give me, change the status. They will not be able to change your status if you are already out of status. So that's why I usually tell people, the number one thing after arriving in the United States, if you are on you are here under what we call the non-immigrant visa, the visa which is requiring you after a certain period of time to return to your home country. And if your goal is to stay here for a longer time, you have to act as soon as possible. You have to know what is your next move. Without knowing what your next move, you'll be in so much trouble in the future, because you'll be going to struggle at the end. And that's how many people under the visiting visa are going to be out of status. That is a very, very important thing to pay attention. So is it allowed? Yes, it is allowed. Is it easy to change your status from B1, B2 to work visa? No, it's not easy. In my opinion, it is easier to change from a visiting visa to change to become a student than changing from visiting visa to go and become the work visa. Changing the status from B1, B2 to student visa. There are two types of student visa here we are talking about. Number one is F visa, number two is M visa. So how do you change your status? You come to the United States through visiting, through conference, through business, B1 or B2 visa. Two questions. Is it allowed to change the visa type, B1, B2 to F or M, without getting outside the United States? And number two, if yes, what is the process? Let me start with question number one. Yes, you are allowed to change the visa type, B1, B2, to become a student, whether it's a student of B1, F1 or M1. You are allowed. And when you change the status, you don't need to go outside the United States. Remember, visa is what allows you to cross the border to come to the country. So the visa will allow you to come to the United States. What allows you to stay inside the United States is not the visa. If you change the status, already you are already in the US, is what we call I-20. But for those who are going under J1, whatever other visa, it will be DS 2019. If you are under the visiting, I-94. So there is another document which allows you to stay in the country and will specify the duration of stay. So yes, it is allowed. And once you change the status, you don't need to go outside to go and put the stamp of the student visa back to come to here. But if you travel outside the country on your own for other things, yes, you need to get the visa. But you can change the visa type while you are in the United States. How do you do that? Number one, you have to do all the processes while you are legally in the United States. So don't come here. You are waiting for 1 week for the visa to expire, for your duration of stay as B1 and B2 is going to expire. Then you want to start the process, because the process will continue. You're already out of status. You must be on status while you are processing everything. How do you do that? So let's say you are here, you have given 6 months. So within the time you are waiting, you can apply for school while you are already in status. So if I said there is F1 and M1, F1 visa is a student, international student visa or status, which when you go to school, you are studying to get a degree, associate degree, bachelor's degree, master's degree, doctorate, postdoc. And M1 is a visa type which you study a certain profession, not to get a degree. You want to become an airplane mechanic. You want to become a pilot. You want to become a DJ, for instance. You are studying to become actor or actress, whatever, but it's not to study towards becoming, to get a degree in acting. It's a professional certification, diploma, whatever you call it, but it's a certain kind of level in a professional setting, but not towards getting a degree in that way. That is M1. So either whether you take, you are going to apply for M1 or F1, you have to apply for school, which school is allowed to take international students, which majority are. The school will give you the I-20, and then you are going to apply to the Homeland Security to change the status, and the school will help you with the paperwork. And once they change the paperwork, you are set to go to start the school without leaving the United States. So you don't need to leave the United States to finish all the process. But remember, the keyword is you must do everything while you're on status. Being on status, to apply for a recognized school which is allowed to get the international students, and to process everything while you're on status from everything, and do all the paperwork and start school as an international student. And from that moment, you'll be allowed to work, because international student is allowed to work. You'll be allowed to get the social security number, and you'll be able to continue. So those are the ways you can be able to change from B1, B2 to go to become to what? From B1, B2 to go to student. That is the easier and the fastest way than trying to change from B1, B2 visa to go to the work visa in that particular way. Are you allowed to get married if you come to the United States under what we call B1, B2 visa? And if so, what will be the process after getting married? Usually, when you apply for the visa as a visitor, that visa is not intending for you to come and get married. If you are supposed to come and get married, you already have someone you plan to get married to here in the United States, you'll be required to apply what we call the fiancé visa, K1 visa. But if you come for a visit, and let's say you decide to get married, remember, you are not supposed to get married like you arrive today and tomorrow you get married. That is called a misrepresentation at the embassy. Even here, yes, you are not going to be denied, but there will be so much scrutinization of, did you really come here for the purpose of getting married? That is different if you come here and after a short time, maybe you get married, that they say, okay, you change the mind after 90 days, whatever. That's why when you come here and a visitor visa, regardless of your duration of the visa, let's say it says you are given 1 year visa, 5 years visa, 10 years visa to come to the US, doesn't mean that you come here to stay for 10 years. At the airport, there is a form called I-94. That form, they will give you 6 months for you to stay in America. So if you come here, and let's say you had a friend, and then you fall in love and you decide to get married, technically it is better to wait until 90 days. It will be much better. It looks like after 90 days, you change the mind, maybe you fall in love, whatever. Then you just arrive here today, and next week you decide to get married. So that is number one. So there is a difference between getting married to a US citizen and getting married to a green card holder. If you are already in the US and getting married to a green card holder doesn't help you in any way to change quicker status, you can apply to become a permanent resident, but while you are waiting, you don't get any privilege. So it is either you, while you are waiting, you come as a visitor, you decided to go to become a student while you are waiting for 1-2 years process until it happens. But just by marrying green card holder doesn't give you the chance, like I will explain when you get married to a US citizen. That's number one. Number two, if you are out of status here in the United States and you get married to a person who is a green card holder, you will still be required to get out of the country and apply for the waiver, not to be punished for being overstayed, so that they can start processing for your green card. But if you are married to a US citizen, number one, when you apply for green card, while you are waiting for green card, you'll be given a work permit, you'll be given work authorization card to be working like someone with a green card to any employer without any restriction while you are waiting for a green card. That's number one. So if the process takes 1 year, you'll still be allowed to work. But if you get married to a green card holder, you are not getting anything. Number two, even if you are out of status, all is going to be forgiven if you get married to a US citizen. So let's say you are here and are visiting, you stayed for 1 year more, whatever, you are not supposed to go more than 6 months, you stayed for a year. And you get married to a US citizen, everything is going to be forgiven, and the process will be continuing for you to be given a permanent residence card. But if you get married to a green card holder and you overstayed, you'll be required to get out first of all. And you are not going to be given work permit while you are waiting, unless otherwise you are already here in the United States under different, maybe work visa, you are already here under student, you are already having other status on your own, and you decide to get married. So you'll be waiting, not under the umbrella of being married to a green card holder, but you'll be waiting under your visa type which you have. So the process usually when you get married to a US citizen, it can take between 4 months to a year process, depending on time to time. I've applied it for some people. I've filled in some people their paperwork. Some people go to within 6 months. Some go to for 5 months. Some go to for 4 months. Some get for 7 months. So it depends, case to case, and it depends on the state to state, all those kind of things in that particular way. So those are the important things you need to know, that you are allowed to get married, but what happens, that is the process. It is a different if you get married while you are outside the country. There is another process we'll explain in a different video, but this is while you are in the United States of America. So it's up to you. If you have a person you know is a green card holder, sometimes you can tell the person, if it's possible, is ready to become a US citizen. It will be faster if you become a US citizen and then get married to you than processing as a green card holder, which will take over 2 years process sometimes. And you need to be on a status, on other kind of status, while you are waiting for that green card. Millions of people, when apply for the visa each year to come to the United States, apply through the visa type of B1, B2, which is famously known as tourist, visiting, pleasure, business, conference, going for medical. Is the same type of visa, B1 and B2 visa. So people who are going to visit someone under B1, B2, there is the concept of having the invitation letter. So what is the invitation letter? And what are the important things to be included in the invitation letter? And who needs to write that invitation letter? What documents are supposed to be attached along the invitation letter? I'm talking to the United States. Some countries have different requirements when someone is writing the invitation letter. Some of the Schengeni, some of the European countries have different ways. Some they require even a person who is inviting you to go and do the police clearance or to pay insurance, whatever. Some of the European countries have different. But this is a process in America, is a base. You can add or remove whatever depending on the country to country. So the invitation letter, any person can write an invitation letter as long as that person is legally in the United States. I've seen or I've heard some cases where someone says, oh, I have my uncle, my relative, whatever, but doesn't want to invite me because he says until he's a citizen or is a green card holder, now he cannot invite me because he's just having a work visa or is just maybe is a student. Even a student can invite a person. As long as you are legal in the United States, you can invite any person. That's number one. So don't find excuse of not inviting someone just by telling, oh, you know, because I'm not a citizen, so I cannot invite you. Or I'm not a green card holder, I cannot invite you. As long as you are legal here, you can invite anyone. But this should be very, very important. Majority of people, if you are asking a person, can you please write me an invitation letter? If the person says no, you are just going to create a very big beef. Like you are going to have a conflict with that person. Oh, this person doesn't want me to come to the United States. This person is so-and-so. This person doesn't want me to succeed. This person, whatever. But before you go and blame that person, do you know the value? Do you know the weight? Do you know the consideration of that invitation letter? What percentage does that invitation letter play for you to be given the visa? Maybe 0.1% or 1%, maybe 5%, whatever. But it's a very small number of percentage that invitation letter is playing a role. The invitation letter is just a small part. The bigger part is you who is invited to prove to the US Embassy that I've been invited to go for a conference. I've been invited to go to visit my friend. I've been invited, so whatever. But I will go to that country and I will stay there for 2 weeks. After staying, I will come back. So prove to the US Embassy that you are not planning to disappear. You are not planning to overstay. You are not planning to go there and become a permanent resident, because you are applying for what we call non-immigrant visa. So prove you'll come back. So it's not the person. It's not the bank statement of the person who is inviting you. It doesn't matter, that bank statement. It's you who is invited. So before you blame the person for not writing invitation letter, prepare yourself, your professional profile. How does it look like? So if that person decides to write the letter will have the following things. Number one, the person, Ernest Boniface Makulilo, you have to show your immigration status. You have to show the relationship between you and the person you are inviting. Again, you have to include the itinerary. What are the things you are planning to do when the person is here? Because if you come here and you are planning to rob some people, whatever, you have to articulate not everything, but the tentative plans, which will show the purpose of the visit technically. So those are some of the things you need to include. So my name is so-and-so. I live in Belton, Missouri, United States of America, under this address. I'm a US citizen, and I'm inviting my brother, I'm inviting my mother, I'm inviting my sister, I'm inviting my friend, so-and-so. So you establish who you are inviting, because they want you to know the person you're inviting. Do you know the person? Don't be used. Because among the responsibility of the embassy is to make sure that people in America are not going to be taken advantage of. You cannot just invite a terrorist. You have to invite a person you know. So they want you to establish the relationship, a friend, neighbor, relative, whatever. What is the relationship with that person? Again, what is the purpose of that visit? That one. In addition to that, there is another important part. If you come here, where are you going to stay? Who is going to cover the expenses while you are in the United States? Why that is crucial? Because that one is going to determine, the bank statement is going to determine how much money you need to have for you who is invited to spend in the US while you are here. So if you say the person whom we're inviting will come to my home and stay here in our house, in our apartment, meaning the person who is going to be invited doesn't need to have hotel reservation. You see? That's the bigger part. And then, because I'm staying here, my expenses will go down compared to if I say I'm going to visit on my own, I'm going for honeymoon on my own, I need to have all these kind of plans, tickets, and all those kind of things in advance. So that is what we call the invitation letter. Who you are, the person, I'm the one inviting. Who am I in terms of names, immigration status, relationship to the person I'm inviting, the reason of inviting, plus the itinerary, and who is going to cover the expenses of that trip. And then I'll attach the documents to prove that my identification and my immigration status. If I'm a US citizen, I can just give the passport. The passport will act as identification and also the immigration documentation. But let's say if you say I'm green card holder, you will put your passport of your country. If you are from Ghana, if you're from Kenya, you're Tanzanian, you will put your passport page and you will put your green card. If you're an international student, you are inviting someone, your relative, for graduation, you have to include the schedule for graduation. You have to prove the documents. You can get the letter from the dean or the admission officer, whatever, that the graduation is so and so and you are going to graduate. So the letter can be also from the university. If you are inviting someone for the wedding, I can put the invitation, normal invitation letter, but I can ask a priest, I can ask, for instance, a church leader, maybe that's where the venue is going to happen. They can also write, yes, like the announcement from the church, on this day there will be a wedding or so and so. That way, if there is a card already, printed card also should be attached. So depending on the nature of the invitation, if the invitation is going to be written by a company, EBM Scholars company is going to invite you, the company will need to introduce themselves that they are legally company incorporated in America. So they have to put the documentation to prove that is a legal company and is inviting you and will do the rest of the things. So those are the invitation letter. So everything depends on you who is going to be invited. That means you have to prove that you are not planning to stay here. So if you get denied, it's not about the invitation letter. Because another question I can ask, are you able to visit US without the invitation letter? The answer is yes. Are you allowed to apply for the visiting visa to the United States without having the invitation letter? Are you allowed to attend the interview without being invited by a company, by a church, by whatever, by individual, without invitation letter? The answer is yes. As I've been saying, the purpose of the invitation letter is very small. The weight, the consideration of the invitation letter is very small. It's just to say, I know someone in the US, I will stay in that particular apartment. I will stay in their house. So for that case, I don't need to show the hotel, whatever itinerary in advance of that particular person will take care of those things. So that is the only difference. But on your own, you can apply for a visiting visa without even needing to show the invitation letter. What you need to do is, for instance, you get married. You want to come for honeymoon in America. You don't need an invitation letter to come for honeymoon. Do you think someone like, for instance, let's give the example, Burna Boy if he wants to get to fly to US, does he need to have an invitation letter? No, because Balaboy can prove he's not planning to stay in America. The purpose or the biggest thing is to prove that I'm not planning to overstay in America. That's not my intention. So whether you have invitation, whether you don't have invitation, is to prove that I have assets, I have important things here in my country where I don't need to stay in America. That's what they need. They don't care whether you have invitation or you don't have invitation. So let's say you say, I want to go for vacation for Christmas in the US. What you need to do, number one, you need to have hotel reservation. How many days you're going to stay? You say, I'm going to stay for 10 days in San Diego, California. Prove that we are going to stay in San Diego. You have to book with a hotel. The same way, like if you say, I've been invited by EBM and I'm going to stay to his house, you don't need to prove the hotel. The same way now you don't have a person, you need to have the hotel reservation. So you'll book with a hotel. That's number one. Number two, you create itinerary. You create a schedule that in these 10 days I'll be in the US. I'm planning to go to the SeaWorld on this day, and this day maybe you have a ticket, whatever. Or I'm planning to go to the Disneyland. Disneyland is in California. Disney World is in Florida. So I'm planning to go to the Disneyland, which is in Southern California, and I'm planning to go maybe to Legoland. I'll take my child to Legoland if you're going with a child, and then I'm going to watch the game for Clippers and Lakers game, and you need to have a ticket for that. And if possible, I'll take a road trip from maybe California, maybe San Diego to San Francisco over the coast of Pacific. So you need to have some itinerary, what you plan to do in those 10 days. Certain things which requires for you to have ticket, you need to have. I'm going to watch Kansas City Chiefs, is he playing whatever, or I'm going to Taylor Swift's concert, I'm going to 50 Cent concert, shows the ticket. I'm going to the NBA finals, shows the ticket. So you need to have all those proof in that particular way. And then in addition to that, you need now to show now why you'll be coming to your home country. You will not be tempted to stay in the US. Oh, I have a job. You have the letter for the employer. How much money do you make? You show there, you have a bank statement, you have a house, you have a family, you have blah, blah, blah. So you need to have all the other evidence to prove that I will not be tempted to stay in America. So if you have all those evidences, you can apply the visiting visa, even without having invitation letter. Do you think, for instance, if my brother, who are professors, who are, for instance, my brother is deputy vice chancellor, does he need to come to stay in the US? No. So he doesn't need my invitation letter. He can decide to apply for a visa. I'm going to have vacation for a few days. I'm going to have a tour to Stanford. Obviously, he's a professor. So he's not going to be tempted to leave his job, to leave his title, to come here. You see, that's what they are looking at. So don't put a blame for person who is, if he's not inviting. If you have the qualifications of getting the visiting visa, doesn't matter whether you have an invitation letter or you don't have an invitation letter, you can also be given the visa. So that is important for you to make sure that you understand the invitation letter, and also to apply the visa without invitation letter. So having invitation letter is not everything, and not having is not everything. Someone like Diamond Platinums of Tanzania, Harmonize, they don't need the invitation letter per se, because they know they don't need it to disappear in America. They have their own establishment as good artists. They have their own money. They have their own whatever. Wizkid doesn't need to stay in America at all. They have their own good life in Nigeria already, better than people in America. So they don't need it to be here. So if you can show that, that's why I usually tell people, make sure that you go to develop your professional resume, your professional profile, to the extent that it is going to be trusted, to be a trustworthy person, that you are not intending to go and stay in another country and try to disappear there. So that is the key when you want to apply.